He stands on the edge of a cliff above the Pacific Ocean. Wind blows through his hair. Below, waves crash against rocks. One step, and it all ends. "Do it," whispers a voice in his head. "You're a hypocrite. You preach about enlightenment, but drown in alcohol. You talk about love, but your family is falling apart. You're worthless." Alan Watts looks down. It would be so easy. One step, and no more pretending. He closes his eyes, and suddenly silence, absolute, as if the world stopped. And in this silence he hears something, not a voice, a feeling, deep, ancient. You are not the one who thinks these thoughts. You are the one who observes them. He opens his eyes, looks at his hands, at the ocean, at the sky, and suddenly understands all this is one, waves and cliff, he and ocean, thoughts and silence between them. He is not separate. He was never separate. He is everything, and everything is God. He steps back from the edge, sits on the ground, and cries. For the first time in years, not from pain, from relief. "I sought you everywhere," he whispers, "and you were here all along, in me, in everything. But this will happen in 30 years. And now he's a 6-year-old boy in England, sitting in church and not understanding what the priest is talking about. God created the world in 6 days, thunders the voice from the pulpit, and on the 7th he rested. Little Alan raises his hand. "Excuse me, sir, what was God doing before he created the world?" The church falls silent. The priest looks at the boy sternly. That's not a question for children. Why? If God existed always, he must have been doing something for eternity before creating the world. What exactly? His father tugs Alan's sleeve. "Be quiet. This isn't the time." But the boy can't. The question burns from within. If God is all-powerful, why does evil exist in the world? If he loves us, why do people suffer? If he created us, who created him? After the service, the priest takes the father aside. "Your son asks too many questions. It's dangerous. Faith doesn't need questions." The father nods. But little Alan thinks, if faith fears questions, perhaps it's not as strong as it seems. His mother was different. She loved mysticism, occultism, Eastern teachings, secretly, because it was unacceptable for English propriety of those times. One evening, Alan found a book about Buddhism in her room, opened it at random. Suffering arises from desire. Desire arises from ignorance. Ignorance is the illusion that you are separate from everything. The boy read again and again. Something in these words resonated, something the church could never explain. "Mother," he asked, "what if the Christian God and Buddhist emptiness are one and the same?" His mother shuddered. "Don't say such things, Alan. People won't understand." "But it's logical. If God is everywhere, then he's in everything. And if he's in everything, then there's no difference between God and the world. Everything is God." That's heresy, son. Or truth. At 13, he was sent to boarding school. A dormitory for boys. Strict rules, cold showers, beatings for disobedience. Alan hated this place. But there he found salvation in the library. He read everything. Christian theology, Hindu Upanishads, Taoist texts, Plato, Aristotle, and everywhere saw one thing, different words about the same thing. The mystery. That which cannot be described in words, that which stands behind all religions. Some call it God, some the Tao, some Brahman, some emptiness. But the essence is one, reality is greater than it seems, and we are part of it, not separate observers. Once he spoke with the school chaplain. "Sir, I don't understand. Why do Christians say only their religion is correct? Buddhists say the same. Muslims too. But they can't all be right and wrong simultaneously. The chaplain frowned. There is only one truth, Watts, and that is Christ. But what if all religions are different languages describing the same thing, like different words for water? Water, o, agua, mizu. The words are different, but water is one. These are dangerous thoughts. Why dangerous? Is God so small that he fits into only one religion? The chaplain had no answer, but punished Alan with a week without dinner for insolence. That evening Alan lay in bed, hungry and lonely, and thought, if God is, as they say in church, cruel, jealous, one who punishes for questions, I don't want to know him. But something inside whispered, this isn't God. People created God in their image. The real God is greater, much greater. At 18, he made a decision that shocked everyone. He became an Anglican priest. Why? Friends didn't understand. You don't believe in church dogmas. That's exactly why, Alan answered. I want to change the church from within. Want to show people that God is greater than any doctrine. The first years were wonderful. He performed liturgy, preached, comforted believers, and tried to put into words what he felt. God is not an old man on a throne. It's reality itself, the very essence of existence. But people didn't understand. They wanted simple answers, rules, certainty. Father Watts, an elderly woman, approached him after service. My husband died. Tell me, is he in heaven? Alan wanted to tell the truth. I don't know. No one knows. But if God is love, then death cannot be the end. But instead he said, yes, of course, he's with God. And each such lie burned his soul. He began to doubt. Maybe the church is right. Maybe he shouldn't search deeper. Maybe it's simpler to live with ready answers. One evening he prayed in an empty church. God, if you exist, give me a sign. Show me I'm not mistaken. That you're truly greater than what the church teaches. Silence. Only a quiet candle and empty pews. He stood to leave. And suddenly a ray of moonlight through the stained glass fell on the altar. And for a moment, just a moment, he saw, not an image, not a vision, a feeling, that the church, altar, candle, he himself, the air, the silence, all this is one, all living, all glowing from within. And this glow, this is God, not a separate being, but the very nature of existence, life pulsing in everything. He left the church a different person, new. He cannot remain a priest, not because he lost faith, but because he found something more. A month later he resigned. Shock, scandal. They called him a traitor, blasphemer. But Alan was calm, for the first time in years, truly calm. He moved to America, began studying Zen Buddhism, practiced meditation, immersed himself in Eastern philosophy, and suddenly understood. Eastern teachings say the same thing he felt in church, just in different words. Zen doesn't say God. It says emptiness. But emptiness doesn't mean nothing. It means everything, without divisions. Reality before we divided it with words. Thus, the Christian God and Buddhist emptiness are one. Different, pointing fingers showing the same moon. He began teaching, writing books, speaking on radio. His voice was hypnotic, deep, soft, wise. People listened spellbound. You are not separate from the universe, he said. You are the way the universe knows itself. Each of you is God playing the game of forgetting in order to discover himself again. Young people of the 60s were captivated. He became a guru of counterculture, an icon for hippies, a mystic for intellectuals. But inside, Alan was broken. He drank, a lot, daily, whiskey, wine, anything that helped drown the inner pain, because he saw the truth. He preaches enlightenment, but isn't enlightened himself, speaks of peace, but is anxious himself, teaches about love, but his marriage is falling apart. I'm a hypocrite, he thought, pouring another glass. I sell people what I don't have myself. His second wife left. Children distanced themselves. He remained alone in a house on a hill above the ocean. And that's when, on the edge of the cliff, he almost took the final step. But he didn't, because he understood something important. He didn't have to be perfect. Enlightenment isn't a state where you no longer make mistakes. It's understanding that mistakes are also part of the dance. God plays all roles: saint and sinner, priest and drunkard, sage and fool. And Alan Watts, with all his flaws, is also part of this play. I don't have to be perfect, he whispered, sitting on the ground near the cliff. I have to be myself, because even my imperfection is your expression. He returned home. Didn't stop drinking immediately, that would come later. But something changed. He stopped lying, started speaking honestly. People ask me, "Are you enlightened?" he said at lectures. I don't know. Perhaps, perhaps not. But I know something else. Enlightenment isn't a success story. It's not, I was bad and became good. It's understanding that there's no division. There's no enlightened Alan and deluded Alan. There's only life living itself through this form. Once a student asked, "But you're a priest. Do you believe in God or not?" Alan smiled. Depends on what you mean by the word God. If you're talking about an old man with a beard on a cloud, no. If about a being separate from the world who created it and now controls it from outside, also no. So you're an atheist? On the contrary, I believe in God far more than most believers. I believe God is not something separate. It's reality itself. The very process of being, energy pulsing in every atom, consciousness looking through your eyes and mine. Everything is God playing hide and seek with himself. That sounds like pantheism. Perhaps. But the Christian mystic Meister Eckhart said the same. God and I are one. The Hindu Upanishads say, Atman is Brahman. The personal soul is the universal soul. This isn't a new idea. It's the oldest truth people always knew but forgot. Then why religions? Alan pondered. Religions are menus, description of food. But description isn't food. Most people stop at the menu, read about God instead of experiencing him, pray with words instead of immersing in silence. But a menu, however beautiful, won't feed you. So what to do? Experience. Don't believe in God, but see that you already are him. Don't seek enlightenment, but understand that the separation between you and reality is illusion. You're not the one seeking. You are what is being sought. The student didn't understand then, but Alan knew. Words are seeds. They'll sprout when the time comes. His last years he spent quietly, writing, recording lectures, watching the ocean. His health deteriorated. Heart, liver, consequences of years of drinking. I'm dying, he told a friend calmly. Aren't you afraid? Alan laughed. Afraid of what? A wave doesn't fear returning to the ocean. It was always the ocean. Just for a moment it raised its head and thought, I'm separate. But it was a game. Now the game ends. So death is returning to God? Death is awakening to the fact you never left. The notion, Alan Watts will disappear. But that which truly is will continue, because it cannot die. It was never born. His friend wept, but Alan was calm. On his last day he sat on the terrace, watched the sunset over the Pacific Ocean, Golden rays danced on the water. "How beautiful," he whispered. And suddenly again that feeling, the same as in church, on the cliff, in all moments when the veil fell, he and the sunset, rays and water, breath and ocean, all one, not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. Boundaries dissolved, only this remained: life, pure, boundless, eternal. Alan Watts' form, name, story disappeared, but that which looked through his eyes remained, because it cannot disappear. It is all that is. They found him the next morning, smiling, peaceful, as if he fell asleep during meditation. On the table, an unfinished book. Last words. "You seek God? Stop. Look at these hands. Hear this heartbeat. Feel the air. It's not you living. It's life living you. And this life is sacred. This is it. This is God. Not somewhere there. Here. Now. Always." His students, reading these words, wept because they understood. He didn't teach religion. He taught truth. Maxwell found God in light, Newton in gravity, Musk in stars. And Alan Watts found him where no one was looking, in the Seeker himself. Not in heaven, not in temples, not in sacred texts, but in the silence between thoughts, in the space between inhale and exhale, in the moment when you ask, "Who am I?" and there's no answer, because the one asking is the answer. Christians call it the kingdom of God is within you. Buddhists, Buddha nature. Hindus, Atman. Alan Watts called it simply reality, that which is. And his entire life, from church to Zen, from priesthood to alcohol, from sermons to silence, was one long journey home. Home to understanding. No one was ever away from home. Because home isn't a place, it's who you are. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46, verse 10. Alan was still and knew. Not knew with mind. Mind cannot know this. But knew as the ocean knows every wave, as the sun knows every ray. Because he wasn't Alan who knew God. He was God playing at being Alan. And now the game ended, and the player smiles. Because it was a beautiful game, worth playing.